On today's show, if the Heat can't make a deal to land a superstar like Kevin Durant or Donovan Mitchell, can they get back to the Eastern Conference Finals? I take a look at three players who must step up for the Heat next and try to decide who between Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo is most likely to emerge as a number 2 option scorer.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast covering all things Miami Heat. However you may be tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app, thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg, solo without my usual co-host, David Ramil, who ran into some travel issues on his way back from Las Vegas. We were supposed to record together with our takeaways from our trips to Las Vegas Summer League. We will have that tomorrow when we can record with David. He's fine. It took him longer to get back from Vegas to Miami than we expected. But thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Had a few takeaways from Nikola Jovic's Summer League stuff on yesterday's show. So if you haven't gotten a chance to look at that, please do. And make sure, as always, to subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever it is that you listen to the podcast. But today, we're going to look at 3 players who have to step up for the Heat if they can't get a Kevin Durant or a Donovan Mitchell deal done. But let's start there because I'm going to get into this tomorrow with David a little bit more. But one of my takeaways from Vegas and talking to people around the Heat and with the Heat is that they have not given up on a Durant trade, okay? As of the time of me recording this on Tuesday morning, they still believe they have a chance at Kevin Durant. That remains the number 1 option. And you can even include Donovan Mitchell. If not KD, then Donovan Mitchell. Landing another bona fide superstar next to Jimmy Butler. That's the number 1 option. That's why they didn't re-sign PJ Tucker. That's why they haven't made any splashy moves yet. It's why they haven't traded a first-round pick for a power forward like John Collins or something like that, is because they have to keep all of those picks for the opportunity to try to land a KD or a Donovan Mitchell, okay? And that's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be. There's not going to be a trade for one of those other guys. They are keeping the powder dry on those picks because they just don't have a lot of them, all right? And you're not trading Duncan Robinson for John Collins or another starting caliber power forward straight up. There's not a team in the league that's going to do that. And so this is where the Heat are. So with that in mind, it is not a guarantee that KD or Donovan Mitchell or just, whatever other random superstar does become available and that player is that the Heat can get that player, okay? So the Heat have to be prepared to go into the season with this basically being the roster, right? And you can bring back Udonis Haslem as the 14th guy. It looks like that's probably the preference, and that's probably 99% chance that is indeed what happens here. But this is basically the roster. And so if you're looking at that, and you're looking at a Heat team that went to Game 7 of the conference finals and was a shot away from making the finals, can this team, as currently constructed, having basically lost PJ Tucker, but otherwise is running it back, can this team get back to the Eastern Conference Finals? And now I think most Heat fans and most people say, yeah, why not? They were just there, and they took the Celtics to 7 games. Why wouldn't they be able to get back? And in fact, they should probably be considered the favorites to get it back. And maybe that's true. But you look at Philadelphia, they got better. You look at Boston, Malcolm Brogdon, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown are going to just only keep getting better. They got better by a smidge, but they got better, and they're not going anywhere, right? They are considered the favorites. Milwaukee, obviously, you get Chris Middleton back. He's healthy. They are actually probably considered the favorites as long as they're healthy. Even though they didn't shake up the roster very much this offseason, it's Giannis, and he's the best player in the NBA, and so they're going to get the benefit of the doubt. So those are 3 teams right there that realistically could be, and I would right now, on paper, consider favorites over the Miami Heat. The PJ Tucker loss is big. I don't know if it's as big as people are making it out to be. The biggest problem is not necessarily losing PJ Tucker, as much great stuff as he did for the Heat last year. The biggest problem is the fact that they don't really have a true power forward. The other biggest problem is that they haven't really gone out and gotten that second scorer. That's why they want KD. That's why they want Donovan Mitchell, right? But if they can't get that guy, they still need to identify who the second scorer on the team is going to be, because going into the offseason, that has been the priority. And coming out of the offseason, they haven't filled that need and just created another need at power forward. All right, so we discussed the power forward options on yesterday's show, whether it's Caleb Martin, maybe Haywood Highsmith, maybe Nikola Jovic gets more minutes than we initially expected when the Heat first drafted him. So that's on yesterday's show. Today, I want to discuss more that secondary scoring option. We have to start, of course, with Tyler Herro, all right? I think the narrative around Herro has probably shifted and gone too far in the negative direction, all right? This is a guy who won Sixth Man of the Year, a 20-point-per-game scorer, and oftentimes during the regular season was the guy who could bail out that half-court offense that could get so stagnant and just get in cement so often. And especially when Jimmy Butler, like we talk about, 47 points in Game 6 and all these things that he did in the playoffs, this incredible scorer, he wasn't doing that in the regular season. This was just sort of Jimmy Butler, 22 points per game, kind of just managing the game during the regular season. And that's fine. But during the regular season, when he wasn't being like superstar Jimmy Butler, it was Tyler Herro who was often the guy that bailed out the offense. And so he's the logical place to start with this. It was an up year for him. But like I said, the narrative has kind of gone the other way because it was a down playoffs, right? It was a disappointing playoffs, and we can make the excuses. It was the injuries. It was whatever it was. Fine. Whatever the reason was, it was a down playoffs, and that's why the narrative has shifted kind of too far in the negative direction. While I think overall, if you zoom out on Tyler Herro's season and his development, he took a big leap from year 2 to last year's year 3 for him. And so that is what I'm going to key on more, is that leap that he took. Now, with that said, he needs to take another leap, all right? We know he wants to be a starter, okay? He said that, hey, I'm going into my 4th year. I think I've deserved to be a starter. I'm not sure that he does deserve to be a starter. Defensively, he needs to get better. I thought in the playoffs, again, injuries, whatever, but we did see some of his limitations, right? We saw the fact that defensively, he could still get targeted and should still get targeted. And it's not just because Jimmy Butler and PJ Tucker and Kyle Lowry and Bam Adebayo were in lineups with him. It's because he's not a good defender, okay? And that just means that he needs to be, to me, a better offensive player. Because to expect Tyler Herro in year 4 to suddenly become some sort of good defender or even above average defender consistently, I don't think is as realistic as just making even more improvements on the offensive end so that basically whatever he gives up defensively, he's making up for it offensively. And if you play him, I think, with the other starters like Jimmy and Bam and stuff, then those defensive issues aren't as glaring because he's surrounded by such good other defensive players. So to me, if I'm Tyler, I'm just focusing on offense, and that's if I'm the Heat, that's where I need Tyler Herro to focus on that improvement if he's going to make another leap from year 3 to year 4. Some of the improvement areas, okay? Obviously, the playmaking, all right? He got trapped a ton during the playoffs, and he struggled with it. We saw some of that in the regular season as well, especially against longer teams like Toronto and things like that. He needs to get better as a playmaker, point blank. He needs to get better at dribbling out of those traps and escaping those traps. The Heat like to say that, hey, that's a sign of respect to Tyler Herro. I think it was just an easy way to create turnovers and stop Miami's offense when Tyler Herro was on the floor. Maybe it's both. I think it's probably more the other way, and the whole, hey, respect, that's like good PR spin on the coaching staff's part. But he needs to get better because it's just like Jaylen Brown in the finals. Hey, we found out on a big stage, seeing him every single night, if we crowd him, especially when he dribbles into the paint, we could pretty much just take the ball away whenever we want because he's not a great dribbler. With Tyler Herro, it's sort of the same thing. Hey, if he crosses half court and he's far away from the basket and we trap him, then all of a sudden we restrict the passing lanes, his passing vision, and he struggles and often turns it over. So that's one place that he needs to make an improvement. And the other place is just overall consistency. The three-point shot and all that kind of stuff, yeah, that's going to come, all right? The dribble got better last year. The handle obviously got better last year. The first step got better last year. All the things that he's already working on just continue to get better. It's not rocket science. He just has to keep getting better at all that stuff. The other guy who we're going to talk about in a moment is Bam Adebayo, okay? To me, these are the two best options, Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo, to sort of emerge and step up for a larger part of the season as the number 2 scorer next to Jimmy Butler. I'll tell you who I think has a better chance to do it between Tyler and Bam next. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. From the people who invented healthy and tasty comes the latest gift to your taste buds. You've probably tried the amazing Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Bar, but guess what? Your friends at Built have given Coconut Brownie Chunk the Puffs retreatment. That's right, the Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Bar flavor you love in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. But stop drooling and listen. They are good for you too. Low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and all delicious. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time, so go to built.com now to make sure you don't miss out. They're gonna go fast because they do taste amazing. I gotta tell you guys, the puffs are a relatively new part of the Built Bar portfolio. Okay, if you haven't tried them, do try them. Even if you have tried, because we've been talking about Built Bars for a long time on this show. If you've tried the Built Bars and maybe weren't a fan of the Built Bars, give the puffs a try with our promo code here, because I think you're going to like them a lot more. I like both. My fiance didn't like the regular Built Bars. She loves the puffs. We just ordered a whole box of the churro ones. Try them out. They're great for after a workout. I know that's what I do. I go to the gym almost every day, and after that, I'll usually have a Built Bar because it's a great way to just keep my energy up throughout the day, especially after a tough workout, and get the protein that I need. The best part about Built Puffs is, of course, that they taste amazing, but you can enjoy them guilt-free because they're actually good for you, too. So here's our offer. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, and get 15% off on your next order. Again, use that promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, back here with Locked On Heat, discussing who has the best chance to go from where they are now to become the number 2 scoring option that the Heat need in the case that they can't land a Kevin Durant or a Donovan Mitchell this offseason. And that is not a guarantee. That remains the number 1 priority for Miami. But if it doesn't happen, this is basically the team, and it's a team that does and will still have high expectations. How can they get back to the Eastern Conference Finals? How can they get into the NBA Finals? It's going to require somebody stepping up. Maybe it's Tyler Herro. Maybe it's Bam Adebayo, especially if Tyler Herro is not the starter. All right, then who's the number 1 or who's the number 2 scoring option in games if Tyler Herro is not starting at the beginning of games? All right, so that's the part about Bam Adebayo's game. We heard Pat Riley after the season say, hey, we need to get Bam 15 quality shots a game. To me, that says a couple things. Number 1, that they believe that Bam has another level to get to, and that they wish that they could. They're going to try to push him more towards being a scorer, that they were maybe a little disappointed that he was so passive at times during the playoffs. Bam Adebayo had some big games in the playoffs. He also had some games where he wasn't the scoring option that he needed to be. He kind of left you wanting more, and I know that Bam does so many things offensively and, of course, so many things defensively, but if he's going to be that dude, then he's just got to do all of it, and that's just what it is, man. It doesn't mean that he's not a max player if he doesn't do all of it. He does so much that I do believe he is worth the max. You could argue he's the best defensive player in the NBA. And so to me, yeah, that's worth the max. But if he's going to be the guy to lift Miami to greater heights, then yeah, he's going to have to be more of a scorer more consistently. And we've seen this in the past from other guys. Nikola Jokic is a guy that we talk about all the time. Was such a great fulcrum of offense for the Nuggets for years, but Nuggets fans always wondering whether or not he could become a 20-plus point per game scorer, and he did become that, and he just won back-to-back MVPs. I don't look, Bam is not the offensive player that Jovic is, and he never will be, but he's way miles and miles better than defensively, and much better than Jokic will ever be defensively. And the whole Jovic thing has got me all mixed up. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make that mistake for the rest of the season, going back and forth between Jokic and Jovic, and maybe you'll know who I'm talking about. Maybe you won't. I don't know. Doing my best here. So if Bam can get those 15 quality shots a game, maybe he can become that number 2 scorer. The other thing that when Pat Riley said that, what that said to me was that they do believe that there's a chance that they're not going to get that number 2 scorer this offseason, even though that remains the priority. They understand that, it's not a guarantee to get that guy. And if we don't, Bam probably has the best chance of anybody on the roster to become that guy more consistently right now. Okay? I think the front office is higher on Tyler Herro than most people believe. That's definitely part of it. All right. I know that Tyler Herro is a pro at being in trade rumors. He's in trade rumors basically every year since he's gotten to the NBA, even as a rookie. Are the Heat going to trade Tyler Herro for Chris Paul? All that stuff. Like that was in Summer League when he was a rookie, and that has not disappeared. Even going into this last Summer League that I just got back from, people wondering, would the Heat include Tyler Herro in this package for this guy or that guy? He's in trade rumors, and he probably always will be for a while. But for Bam, he's pretty much that's not a guy that anybody believes the Heat want to trade, right? Regardless of whether or not he becomes more of a scoring threat, just because of everything that he does and the fact that he's an anchor defensively and the fact that whether or not they get KD or Donovan Mitchell, that they believe that the best chance to get back to the finals is to have those stars playing next to Bam Adebayo and obviously Jimmy Butler. So That's the part of Bam's game. 15 quality shots. Where does that come from? I believe that that's going to come more at the basket. I think they want him to work on the mid-range game a little bit. We saw video out of London from Bam Adebayo work on his threes. Does he take one or two open threes, pick and pop threes a game? Maybe he does. We'll see. But when we talk about efficient shots for Bam, all that means is at the rim. Can he get to the lob area more? Can he get to the dunker spot a little bit more? One part of PJ Tucker not being on the team right now is, yeah, PJ was an awesome corner three-point shooter, elite numbers from that area, but defenses didn't play up on him, right? They basically crowded the paint, and when PJ caught the ball, then they would close out. Is going small with somebody like Caleb Martin, who can make more of those kind of above the break and threes and space the floor a little bit more, is going small actually going to free up Bam to have more space inside? I think it will. I really do. The issue is that for Bam, he's already small as a center. And if you're playing Caleb Martin at the 4, that is a really, really small team. And that's a team that could get beat up by bigger teams like Philadelphia and Milwaukee. So that makes it even more important for Bam to become that number 2 scorer, because it's not enough to just be, hey, I'm a small ball center and I can rotate and I could switch and defensively and all that stuff. That's not going to get anybody like Embiid off the floor. But if he could become a go-to scorer on offense and play other bigger centers off the floor and get opponents to downsize a little bit, then the fact that Miami is so small becomes less of a concern. And then now the game is playing to Miami's favor. They're playing a pace that they want to play. So I expect a quicker pace. I expect them, if this is the roster, a quicker pace. And I expect them to really lean into Bam becoming that guy who can more dictate the terms of engagement of a game, especially offensively, than he ever has before. Another big part about the pace is Kyle Lowry. That's why the Heat acquired Kyle Lowry in the first place. Can he become more of a factor offensively after what was a disappointing first year in Miami? That's what we're going to talk about next here on Locked On Heat. All right, back here with Locked On Heat. Wes Goldberg going solo today. My co-host David Ramil will be back tomorrow. We will have our takeaways from Summer League, a bunch of observations, and some league intel that you are not going to want to miss. But I didn't want to spoil it now because I really want to have that conversation with David. So what we're talking about now is who is going to step up if as the number 2 scorer if the Heat can't get Kevin Durant or Donovan Mitchell in a trade this offseason. So we talked about Tyler Herro. We've talked about Bam Adebayo. Those, to me, are the best options, with probably Bam actually being the more likely option over Tyler, and only because we don't know if Tyler Herro is going to start, and because they are clearly trying to push Bam more towards being a consistent scoring option. But a big part of this is going to be Kyle Lowry. Now, I don't think that Lowry at this point in his career can be your night-to-night number 2 scoring option, and I don't know that the Heat ever envisioned him as that. I think they envisioned him as another star next to Jimmy Butler, but in a way that, yeah, he's not going to be scoring 25 points per game, but he's just going to be this consistent two-way guy who can stabilize all of our units whenever he's on the floor, regardless of who he's playing with, just like Jimmy, right? Jimmy covers up so much on both ends. He contributes so much on both ends, and I think they looked at Kyle Lowry as sort of a mini Jimmy Butler. And at some points last season, he was that guy. And there was a lot of things that we were impressed with, especially like the hit-ahead passes and the way that he was able to maximize certain opportunities to pace and get ahead and sprint ahead in transition and all these things. Defensively, he's really smart, great communicator. Even if he's slipped a little defensively, he's still, I think, a net positive on that end just because of how smart he is and how well he communicates on that end. And the fact that, hey, he's still better defensively than Duncan Robinson, Tyler Herro, even Max Strus, who was more impressive defensively than we thought he would be. But Kyle Lowry is still their best backcourt defender. The big thing with him, and we heard Pat Riley talk about this, he has to get in shape. He was not in shape last year. Point blank, he needs to get in shape, okay? Now, this isn't like a body shaming thing with Kyle Lowry, even though we all like to make fun of Kyle Lowry because he's kind of round and everything like that. But that's just been Lowry his entire career. What we need to see from Lowry is just general conditioning, just being able to be healthy for a full season. Now, there were some outstanding issues for Kyle Lowry last season. He had the personal issues that kept him off the court for a bunch of different kind of pockets of the regular season. It kind of felt like he could never really get into rhythm, and then that affected him in the playoffs. And then there was some lingering injuries that he's dealing with in the postseason as well. But even going into last season, the move from Philadelphia to Miami, I think that was a little bit harder than he expected. All the personal issues that were a concern, maybe they were dating back then. I don't know. It just felt like, he wasn't really comfortable even to begin the season. And, maybe that's also part of it. He played in Toronto for so long. To kind of shift gears and go to another team and play a little bit of a different role in a different city, in a different country, that it's understandable why that might have been a little difficult and contributed to the slow start and why he never really got into rhythm. So, all of that said, he's got a full summer, a full training camp with Miami. There is no move. You hope that whatever personal issues that he was dealing with are not as much of an issue anymore. Obviously, that's first and foremost with Kyle. You just hope that he's doing well, because if you're not in a good headspace, it's hard to be good at your job, point blank. So if Lowry is in shape, then that's a different thing altogether for Miami, because not only is he more consistent, but then you're getting him on the floor more often. You don't have to fill in the spots there. Gabe Vincent now all of a sudden doesn't have to start, and he could be another scoring option for you off the bench. Obviously, we know that he can get hot from three-point range and things like that. The other thing with Kyle Lowry is I would like to see that pull-up three kind of come back. He was a really great pull-up three-point shooter in Toronto, where he would just come off of a screen, pull up, and drain a three off of open, getting that open pocket right off of a screen. That is there for Miami. We've seen flashes of it, especially in handoffs with Bam Adebayo and things like that. When he just comes off that screen quickly, again, that's the conditioning. Come off the screen quickly and get into that shot pocket and launch and make that pull-up three at an efficient clip. All of a sudden, Miami's offense opens up. When he was playing like that, and I kind of look at, March-ish as when he was really kind of finding his form there before he kind of backslid again in the postseason. It opened up Miami's offense completely. Obviously, Kyle Lowry's scoring numbers went up, but so did the Heat's scoring numbers. And it just made things so much easier for everybody else. And when he's hitting that pull-up, the playmaking for him becomes easier. He's able to set up teammates better and all of that stuff. But that's where the conditioning, again, comes from, because you need fresh legs to be able to peel off those screens and get into that shot pocket and then get the lift you need on that pull-up three, because that's really important, too, to dribble and then pull up into a three. It's much harder than just a catch-and-shoot three. And when you're Kyle Lowry, that pull-up three is going to be there way more often than the catch-and-shoot three, because obviously he has the ball in his hand so much. So that's the other part of it. The defense kind of regressed a little bit last year. I thought he was blown by in the playoffs way too much. Again, if the conditioning is there, you expect the defense to get a little bit better. At this stage in Kyle Lowry's career, you assume that the defense is going to basically get worse and worse as he ages. But based on his conditioning last year and where I think the Heat want him to be, I think it's reasonable to also say that his defense could get better next year based on where it was at the end of last season. And I think that's fair. I think that's the expectation. And the expectation is for Kyle Lowry to get in shape. Again, that's not going to be the guy who becomes Miami's number 2 scorer next to Jimmy Butler. But they don't expect that from Kyle Lowry. What they expect from Kyle Lowry is his presence on the floor to make it easier for Jimmy Butler and guys like Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro to score more and become those scoring threats that the Heat do need. Because defensively, even though they lost PJ Tucker, they're still going to be good. Yes, they're small. Yes, there's things. But this is the Miami Heat that we're talking about. They're still anchored by Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. When you have those two guys, you are going to be good defensively. Will they be as good as they were last year? Probably not. Okay? Probably not. But offensively, there is an opportunity to get better. And that's going to be big if Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo can make other leaps in their games, and if Kyle Lowry can get back into the conditioning that the Heat expect from him. That'll do it for us today. Remember to like and subscribe to Locked On Heat on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Comment and leave a 5-star rating, and reach us on Twitter at Locked On Heat. Thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. For your second listen, get up to date on the latest news and rumors in the NBA in just 30 minutes every day with Locked On NBA. Locked On NBA, your daily NBA update in just 30 minutes.